what's up? We are back on the CEO Pulse podcast where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. I'm sitting down with a dear friend of mine, Mr. Ricardo Rosales, right? He's out of Texas, and this guy just crushes. He's the CEO, owner of multiple companies. He has a VA company, a transaction coordinated company. He has businesses in the SaaS, so software products. He's a killer real estate investor. I mean, he started as a fix and flipper and then moved on to wholesaling, landlording, all kinds of stuff, man. You've been in the industry for a long, long time, and you've seen it all, man. I can't wait to dive into this conversation. And if when you're talking about the spirit of entrepreneurship, I think you're the depiction of it.
And you know what? It was fun. Number one, thank you so much for the invitation, guys. You guys gotta hit, share, like, and subscribe. All of his episodes, they're awesome. But it wasn't always like that. I was actually a W-2 guy for years.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was a very little kid. I was 8 years old, and I wanted to be like my dad. That was my dream. I want to be like my father. My dad was in the insurance business, and he would dress like wearing suits and ties, and he was this sophisticated sales guy, and everybody loved him. Every time we went to insurance companies to like deliver applications and things like that, I can see the love that my dad got. So I wanted to be him. Yeah. And when I was 8, I told him to buy me a suit. Yeah. I said, buy me a suit because I want to dress like you. Yeah. And I want to be like tagging along the side, right? So he was my hero. And he did. He bought me a suit. So I said, hey, can I go to work in the office? And he's like, sure. What do you want to do? And I'm
how do you say no to that?
I said, I don't know, but I just want to go to work. Yeah. I just wanted to be around him, right? I loved him so much. And, I became his secretary's assistant. So back then, they had filing cabinets. Yeah. And everything was on a file, on a manila folder, and it will go on the filing cabinet. So I was the filing cabinet person. Yeah. So every time the secretaries need a file, like Rafael Cortez, Ricardo, can you please go get Rafael Cortez file? So that's what I did. I went and looked up the C for Cortez. Yeah. That file is going to be there. I pull up the file, take it to them.
And you're 8, 9 years old?
I was 8.
8 years old at the time, man. It's crazy. Yeah. That's high-level stuff for an 8-year-old kid, I'll tell you that.
It was. And sometimes I got confused with the letters and the names, and I'll have to go ask the secretary or the assistant, hey, is Cortez with Z or S at the end, right? I'm just using your last name as an example. But I started doing that, and then by the time I was like 13, 14 years old, I knew how to drive. Even though I wasn't legal to drive, I knew how to drive because my grandfather taught me when I was 11.
Like every good Latino knows how to drive by the time they're
So 11, so at that time, my father said, hey, look, son, now that you drive, why don't you become the office boy? And basically an office boy in Venezuela is a guy that goes from the office to all the companies and run errands. So I was just running errands all day long. And now my job was to go to the insurance companies, deliver documents, deliver checks, get applications, take them back to the office. So I was like, that exchange that we do through email today.
Yeah, you were the email.
I was the email, right? And that started like getting me out there, getting to know people, and being on the whole scene. But I really wanted to be like my father, so I wanted to do sales. And the thing is, my father comes from a family of people that are educated when it comes to like having degrees, going to college. My grandmother was a teacher and also a principal in school. So her sisters were the same. They were all teachers, doctors, principals. So having an education in my family was like a must. But my father, he's the one that never had a degree. Everyone else had a degree. Like my uncle Julio, my aunt, they both got doctors. They're doctors. So my other uncle, Roberto, who's dead now, he was a pilot. So they all had some sort of a piece of paper. Yeah. That's what my dad wanted for me. Because he said, son, you don't understand how hard it was for me, it still is at the time, how to be an entrepreneur, in the insurance world. And I think many more doors will open for you if you go get a degree. And I just didn't want to do that. So that's when we started clashing pretty much. I was about 20 years old, 21. Long story short, I literally ended up moving to Miami at some point from Venezuela because I won a bet against my dad. He honored his commitment, so he moved me there. And
wow.
Yeah.
So you moved to Miami through a bet.
Through a bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened was, in my last 2 years of high school, I was just bad. Like, let me put it to you that way. I was drinking every freaking day, man, and I was just partying like there was no tomorrow. The other thing is, I didn't see myself going to college. And actually, I never saw future for myself in Venezuela. If you ask me, when I was like 17, 16 years old, what I saw myself doing, I didn't know. I was like, but I knew that there was no future for me there for some reason. And because of that, I never went to school. I graduated high school because of a bet. Because on the last year, I literally never showed up. I never went. I was just drinking and partying. In Venezuela, you start drinking when you're very young. It's normal. It's like very normal.
Yeah, it's kind of like Mexico.
Yeah, and you can go to the freaking liquor store and buy it. So they don't care how young you look. If you got the money, they're gonna sell it to you.
Yeah.
So luckily for me, I was never around drugs because I was in a group of friends that it was all about drinking and partying, but there was no drugs around. Actually, drugs were a taboo. If you smoked a little weed or you did something else, that guy's bad. Don't get close to him, right? But here we are, a bunch of alcoholics, and that was good, right?
That's acceptable.
So
Social norms, man.
I flunked my last year, man, and literally out of 7 classes I took, I passed 2.
Wow.
English and sports. Everything else, I flunked it. Like, I didn't pass it. So that was the bet. He said, look, if you pass this in summer, because in Venezuela, classes end like around May, June, something like that, or July, I forgot. But then you got July, August, and September is vacations. Well, they give you time to study those 3 months, and then you retake tests for the whole year in September. And if you pass, you
so
graduate.
they allow you to come in and then just kind of challenge the test if you
test.
If you failed, yeah.
Just one test for the whole year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't think we do that here.
no, they do that there in Venezuela.
Yeah.
So now, if I would have flunked one more class,
Yeah.
then I would have never been able to retake the test. I would have had to redo the whole year.
Yeah.
But I failed 5 out of 7, which is like, you're either stupid or dumb. I was both.
Or
okay?
not there, right?
But yeah, I was just like both, right? But my dad said, man, I know there's a smart guy in you. You're just not motivated. And that was the truth. He found out that I just wasn't motivated because I didn't see myself living there. I didn't see myself doing anything there. I just wanted to be him. That was it. I wanted to really help him build that business. And he said, look, this is what we're going to do. You're going to go take those tests. And if you pass, we're going to move to Miami, Florida. And I said, where? Because I was born here in the U.S. by pure coincidence. So I had an American passport. He said, we're going to move to Miami, Florida. I'm going to buy you a new car. And you're going to go to college there. The college part, I was like, whatever. But the car, Miami, oh, man.
It was a pretty good trade-in. Yeah.
I am in for the ride. And sure enough, man, I went and took my 5 tests. And every day, I used to go from high school to my grandmother's house. I used to take the public transportation. And then I will walk from like a corner all the way to my grandma's house. And Maracaibo is a hot city. I mean, it's like kind of like Arizona. It's a desert. It's 100 and some degrees. It's like every time halfway, I'll take my shirt off because I'm like pouring in sweat, right? And I get there, and he's like, "How do you do with the test today?" I said, "Don't worry about it." I would never tell him whether I passed or I didn't pass. I was just waiting to pass all the classes. That way, when I pass the last one, then I'll let you know.
Boom, that's it.
And I went and took them all. I passed. And on the last test, he's like, so what's up, dude? You got me thinking about this thing. Like, are we going to go to Miami or what? And I was like, where's the plane tickets at? Here's the diploma. So I slapped him with the diploma, and he looked at us and said, man, I can't believe, dude, you passed all these classes by taking one test after summer.
Yeah.
And I said, well, there you are. And, man, he was a man of his word. 2 days later, we were gone. We had no plane tickets, nothing. He said, literally, go ahead and take a shower, get dressed. You're coming with me. I said, where? It's like, don't worry about it. do what I say. So I went and took a shower, got dressed, and we left my grandma's house to go to the travel agency. And she asked the lady at the time, said, "Look, when is when is the next flight to Miami?" And she was like, "Well, I don't have any room until like two days later." Because if he would have found a flight that day, he would have taken me out of the country that day.
Wow.
Yeah. Because his thing was, I need to remove this guy from this environment as fast as I can. Otherwise, he's gonna go back to his old habits.
That's huge, man. That's huge. I mean, well, first off, it's an incredible, story of origins, right? I see two things. I think you're naturally wired to be an entrepreneur, but you also had the preconditioning. You had the classical conditioning to go along with it because you had the exposure to it from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's very, very interesting. One thing that I wanna put out there or make a comment on is people who are, and this goes for the audience, right? If you're out there and you're working on your stuff, you're working on your business, you're trying to you make your life better. You never know who's watching if you don't pay attention. Here we have you as a son, right? You're looking at your dad. You said it multiple times. I just wanted to be like him. I was seeing everything that he was doing.
That's it.
Right? So having the ability to create that impact through modeling, I mean, it's a very real thing. Now you walk me through it. So now you're in the States.
So I go to the States.
Miami.
I started going to Miami-Dade Community College. I was actually studying English because I spoke English, but I wasn't good at like grammar. Like I had to get the basics corrected so I could go to college.
Right.
Because that was the agreement that I was going to go to college, right? So I went through those motions.
He held his end. You had to.
Oh, he held his end. Now I had to hold mine, right?
Yeah.
So what happened was, while I'm going through college and I'm top of the class, like in English, like studying English, I'm good. I'm top. I'm going Monday through Thursdays like I'm supposed to. Friday we were off. So what happened was he started his insurance operations in Miami, and he opened up a small office. I remember the office wasn't even bigger than this room. It was 2 desks. It was me and Annette, and I was in there because I already knew the business. Like coming from where I came from, I knew the basics of what he was doing.
Yeah, at that point, you've been in the business for 12 years.
Yes, that's correct. So, and I've been exposed to all his agents, and now he has this agency running, which multiple people. And I started literally processing, in Miami. I became the office boy in Miami now. So we'll bring all the applications from Venezuela, and then we take them to the company that was at the time was American Bankers in Miami. So I was the office boy locally now. But little by little, I started growing into it, and I was doing all the work, man. I was wearing multiple hats. I was processing applications. I was talking to agents. I was like making sure commissions were getting paid. I was running everything. There was another guy. His name was Hubert. Hubert was like number 2. So I would report to Hubert. Yeah. Hubert was the COO per se at the time, and I was just number. And one of the reasons why I wasn't number 2 because I was still a little. I was very. How do you put it? I was still in my old ways. I was finding my way to parties. I was drinking on the weekends. I wasn't paying attention to college that much anymore because now I had a job. Yeah. And I was working with him, right? And I one of the things that happened is I got my girlfriend pregnant at the time. And now I had a baby on the way.
Plot twist.
My priorities completely changed. Yeah. From going to college and getting a degree, now it's like I got to provide for this family. And my dad kept on pushing me for the college route. It was just never in me. Yeah. And one day I told him, I said, look, man, I'm not going to go to college. Like, I don't want to waste your money, is what I told him. I think it's a waste of your money. I don't want to study. Like, I just want to work. Can we just do that here? I'll work. I'll work as much as you want me to. I want to sell. I want to help you build this company. And his thing was like, but you gotta go to college. Like for him, that college degree thing, man, was very. But my argument, I was like, but you never had a college degree. Yeah. And that he hated that because he knew it was right. Yeah. I was like, you never had a college degree, and look how successful you are.
He probably aspired to one. He just never had the time.
No, he wanted to.
The ability, the ability to do
like
it.
I did, he had me when he was young as well. Yeah. So he had no choice but to go to work. He didn't want that for me. Yeah. But I kind of like fell in the same route that he fell into, like by getting my girlfriend pregnant. My daughter now is 24, 25 years old. And that was a blessing for me, you know.
Yeah.
But even though back then I was very mature and young, we ended up getting married. And I was married to her mother for like 3 or 4 years. Then we found out that we weren't really for each other. We're great friends today, but at the time we're like, no, we gotta.
It just wasn't. Yeah.
It just wasn't like you know that it meant to be, and that whole drive for him to me to go to college, it pushed me away.
Yeah.
So I ended up. I don't even remember if he fired me or I left, but it was we broke up pretty much.
Yeah.
And that was another thing. I had a boss. I didn't have a father. So every time I saw him, we just talk business. And even when he did barbecues at the house, I would go to his house and it was just business. Hey, what happened with this thing? What happened with it? I was his employee. Yeah. And I just started hating that. I was like, man, this is not what I want. So I dropped off his radar and I was lost for a good year. I was 20 years old when I did that. And I tried things here and there. I went and got me other jobs. I went and like literally I tried. I became an entrepreneur also. I started to do well being an entrepreneur.
So how did you take that leap, right? So you're working, basically what's happening right now, I mean, you have this track record on a specific industry, and then that just stops working for you, and you take the leap. What was the next thing that you jumped into?
So, man, it's kind of vague in my memory because I was drinking a lot, number one. I was drinking like there was no tomorrow. And number two, I was like on a limbo. Yeah. Like he was kind of like helping me get by still because he paid for my car. A lot of the benefits that I had when I was working for him were like I had a nice car. You know, he paid me a salary, so I had a salary to pay for my rent or whatnot. Although I lived with my ex-wife's parents, I was just helping in the house with all the expenses and stuff. But I think when I left, the first job I got was with some friends of mine. They were entrepreneurs. And I was in there kind of like as their business development guy in a way. They just wanted me to hang out, literally. That's what it was. And then eventually I realized that wasn't a good idea. So I went and tried, became part of a call center. And it wasn't a call center like the ones you and I may have or collaborate with today. These were like long distance phone companies. Like they had all this technology back then to connect calls from the U.S. to Latin America or Europe or whatever. So that was the business. And I did that for a little while. But then I ended up getting fired because, you know, I wasn't really into the business itself.
Isn't it crazy? Sometimes you just feel like you're not, like, for example, now I feel I'd be a terrible employee. Just because of not because I have a problem with authority, but I do have an issue with not being able to control my time. I mean, that's kind of what does it for me. But when you took the leap into betting on yourself, because I know that's a big question that comes across as you're going through the transitions of one job to the next. It sounds like you're looking for something, and then how did you take that leap, and then what did it look like?
Man, it was ugly because I was couch surfing.
Wow.
Literally. Oh, but at the same time, now I'm getting to it with my wife.
Yeah,
we're not doing well together because I'm very irresponsible when it comes to taking care of or having a stable job or whatever. Yeah. And I'm still partying and drinking. And this is Miami, man. Miami is the city where it doesn't sleep. And all my friends are doing the same thing, right? So, now I'm separated from my wife. And I'm like sleeping at a friend's house or my mom's house or somebody else's house or whatever. So I had no stability whatsoever. Now, I did start a business where I was buying cell phones. Back then, you could buy cell phones, take them to Venezuela. I would sell them their wholesale pricing. Man, I started making good money. And next thing I know, I got 3 stores in Venezuela. So I'm going back and forth. Now I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
And I got lines of credits of like $100,000. And I can buy on credit, sell there, collect the money, pay my creditors. And we can get into that whole side of the business on a whole different podcast later on. But you know, because there's more stories attached to that. But anyhow, as soon as I start growing, man, the universe, he had a different plan for me. And I sent the shipment of cell phones and like all the accessories, like chargers and things like that. And when I opened up that container in Venezuela, man, that thing was gone. It was empty. So I got robbed.
Wow.
Basically. So I owe now my suppliers. I don't have enough money for paying them back. I'm in a bind. And of course, they're not gonna give me more equipment. They're like, dude, you owe me now. It's like, so.
What year was this?
This is in 2000, year 2000.
Wow.
2000. And yeah, so I did all of that. I moved to Miami in 95. By 2000 is when I kind of like went on my own and I started doing all these ventures. I probably quit in the office in 99 or got fired, one of the two. To me, it's the same. I still pretty cool with my dad today, you know, and it's a whole different. We look back and we kind of laugh at it, but but back then that wasn't the case. So, and he was worried about me. I mean, he had all the rights to do so, right? And so was my mom and everybody else, because I had all these bad behaviors, you know, drinking, partying.
Well, I think it's easy to fall into. It's different stages of life.
Yeah.
I mean, I guarantee you that he wasn't the same person, you know, at that age when he was dealing with you than when he was young, right? And in his 15s or 20s, it's just completely different stages. It's psychological evolution. Like that's really what it comes down to, right? We have different priorities based on the situation that we're in, and like your story specifically. I mean, it's changing quite a bit. So you see, I mean, it's not necessarily the corporate structure, but you have the employee background, right? W-2 background. And then, you know, trying to scratch that itch as far as, you know, putting something together and then jump into this hustle of the phones. What happened afterwards?
So once I got robbed, I was devastated, dude, because now I have no money.
Yeah.
I owe money.
Yeah.
To my friends they were kind of like helping me in a way by giving me these lines of credits. I'm not good with my wife at the time. Like she's like calling me from a loser and down.
Yeah.
I'm not able to support my daughter like I'm supposed to. So I'm like, man, what do I do with my life? And
crossroads, yeah.
My back was against the couch because there was no wall. I mean, it was whatever couch it could land on. That was it, right? So I was in a way homeless. You know, I did have a car, but was thanks because my dad felt sorry for me. He continued to pay for it. Yeah. I mean, I was in a bind, dude. I was like, had no money, nothing. Like literally, I got to where I didn't have $50 in my pockets.
It's crazy.
And I still have to provide for my daughter, right? Yeah. So.
And I've been there, by the way.
Yeah. So we rough. All have like
it's rough.
Yeah, it's a rough thing, right? So. One thing, when I was growing up in Venezuela, my dad one time asked me if I wanted to join a military school far away from home. And I said, man, I might do that. Like I like the challenge, you know, like to get structure and all of these things, right? And I think that's what I needed at the time in my life is a lot of structure. I needed a safe place to be so I could provide for my daughter because now I have a daughter.
Yeah,
that's my main thing that I'm worried about now. Insurance for her, you know, making sure her mom's got enough money to provide and all that. And man, I saw a commercial on TV of the U.S. Navy, and I said, those guys look good on those uniforms. And you know what? On a ship, you get to see the world. I'm just gonna stop by the recruiter's office and see what it is. And boom. Not 30 days later, I was in boot camp already. I was so broke, bro. When I talked to I believe that's when I started recognizing omens. You know what an omen is, right?
Yeah, I'm a big follower.
Right.
Big
so I go to the recruiter's office, and the last name on the recruiter is Rosado. My name is Rosales. And I say, hey, what's your name? He said, my name is Ricardo. And I'm Ricardo. So I'm like, no freaking way, man. Like, you almost got my name.
Sign me up.
and he's like, what are you talking about? I said, yeah, my name is Ricardo Rosales. And he's like, oh. So I saw that as a sign.
Yeah.
That, you know what? I should trust this man. I should believe what he's saying. I had tried to join the army before. I wasn't ready at all. at that time. So I went and took the test. The guy called me and said, "Oh, are you going to sign up or not?" And I got scared. I got cold feet because my parents-in-law, they kind of like talked to me out of it. But this time around, I'm not with my wife anymore. I'm looking for a check and insurance. That was my main thing.
Yeah.
And
You don't have a lot of options.
No, I didn't have a lot of options. You know, and I did look for jobs and things like that, but I don't think I care for any of those jobs.
Well, I mean, you've already seen what that was like, right? So you had a job, and you were part of a company that wasn't yours. I think if you're an entrepreneur, I think it. And I just had this conversation with Gino Wickman, and it's crazy, but I think there's a certain.
I love that guy, by the way. I read his books.
Oh,
I implement traction
he's amazing. I just had him on the podcast. Actually,
I don't know him, but I love him. Like, it's crazy.
Great dude.
Yeah.
Episode 87.
Wow.
And we break down his newest book, which is Taking the Leap. It's about whether or not you're an entrepreneur and you have what to expect coming into entrepreneurship. But we're breaking that down, and one of the things he mentioned is like there's certain traits that entrepreneurs come predisposed with, right? And he's a big. I was surprised to understand this or to hear this from him, but he's very adamant about some people are meant to be entrepreneurs, some people are not. Which is, I mean, it's different to everything that I've learned in the past. But then he breaks it down and he's like, I mean, when you're talking about risk, you're talking about, quick to action type of stuff. You're talking about, not necessarily waiting for the whole thing to be analyzed and look perfect before you actually commit to it. I mean, those are important traits, right? And from your background, like that's exactly what you did. You felt like you needed a solution at that time. It's like, all right, let's pull the trigger on that.
Yep, and I did. I joined the Navy.
How long were you in the Navy for?
4 years.
4 years.
So, and I wanted to do life. Yeah. Okay. When I joined the Navy, I actually liked it.
Yeah.
I understood that I wasn't going to get rich. I wasn't doing it necessarily for the money itself. I was doing it to create a foundation.
Yeah.
And to get myself out of the environment that I was in Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
That was a party environment.
Means to an end, yeah.
Yeah, it was the means to an end to that part of my life that I wasn't too proud of either. The only good thing that came out of that was my daughter, pretty much. But other than that, everything else was I don't remember half of it. I mean, I was drinking so much. I think I blacked out many times. So
wow.
Some people will come to me and say, "Hey, hi, how are you?" And I'm like, "Who the hell is this?" Turns out I met them during that time of my life in Miami, and I just don't remember them.
Man,
yeah,
that's intense. That's intense. So you spent 4 years in the military. What did that do
within 2 years? I found out I didn't want to continue to be there for politics. So the politics in the military are very hard, and the reason why is because you're in it on a contract. You can't quit. Mm-hmm. So if things are not going your way, or you're not somebody else's favorite person or whatnot, you're in for a rough ride.
Yeah.
And when I joined, I wanted to do 20 years because I saw the military a little different. It's a place where you can do a career. There's a path. You move around. I love moving around. I love meeting new people. So that's always happening. But what I found out, it was very early that the politics inside of the military, they're very bad. So I'll give you an example. So there was two of us, my brother from another mother, Bo, and myself, and we were coming up together, and he just happened to be the golden boy. I wasn't. So most of the stuff that there could only be a number one. I was never number one. He was number one. And by many of the rights, like he was a hard worker, but I knew deep down I was producing more than he did based on production, and so my morale started dropping. Once he's recognized as number one and I'm number two, I'm like, and I will challenge it. I was like, hey, why is he number one? Give me the reason why he's number one. Well, he did this. I said, yeah, but I did this, and that. I think this has more of an impact. And my chief at the time said, you know what, you're right. But he's number one. That's the one I pick. So now I'm thinking, man, I got to do 20 years of this shit? Yeah. No freaking way. I can't do it. And today's him, and now I am grateful to that guy today. Because thanks to him, I'm where I'm at right now. If he would have treated me as the number one,
You probably would have stayed.
I
Yeah.
probably would have stayed.
It's sometimes, man, I think about, like, there's been pivotal moments in my life, right, where I hit a crossroad, or I mean, I don't know, if I hadn't gone to a meeting or met this one person, had that one conversation, or this like shitty thing hadn't happened, I would have missed the space that I'm in right now. My life would have gone in a whole different direction. It's scary to think that way. Mm-hmm. It's scary to sit back and then, holy shit, man! I mean, we just recorded another podcast right before this for yours, right? And I mentioned the QuickBooks. Like, how did I get into real estate? For me, it was a QuickBooks meeting. It was a training on QuickBooks, and I met that one person that led me to somewhere else and somewhere else and somewhere else. And I think about it, like, what if I hadn't gone to that one QuickBooks meeting? my path would probably be, completely different. But it's interesting, right? To just kind of entertain that side of things for a little bit and appreciate what we have. What we've been able to just, create the highs and the lows and everything in between. So, I mean, it's kind of like a tangent to it, but I think it's important to just kind of, step back and breathe on that for a little bit. Now, with that said, you spent some time in the military. How did you end up? Because now, I mean, now you run multiple profitable companies. You build a massive portfolio, like in the early 2000s.
That's how I started, like
early 2000s. So walk me through that.
So 2 years in the Navy, I decide I'm not gonna do life.
Yeah.
I'm gonna prepare my exit now.
Yeah.
And my military bearing completely changed. I wasn't shaving anymore. Once I lose interest in something, and we were talking about that in your business, like when you lost interest in the trucking business, right? Yeah. Once I lost interest in the military, I was still performing, but that's just because who I was.
Yeah.
But I wasn't looking after myself anymore. I wasn't shining my boots. I wasn't shaving. I was literally not giving a crap about it. Like, I'm like, you know what? I don't care about the evaluations because guess what? I did my best and I didn't get them.
Yeah.
So why would I do my best anymore? But I just did enough to like continue to perform. And I was still performing at a high level. It's just that I had an attitude, changing attitude towards the military now. And I literally started planning my exit strategy. I said, what do I need to do to get a job that I can now employ the set of skills that I acquired in these last 2 or 3 years in the military, but in the civilian world, right?
Yeah.
So I started learning how to write a resume. I started learning how to put it together, how I can sell myself through a resume. All of these things that I'm supposed to learn either in school or somewhere else, I had to go research it myself on my time off on the ship, which was not much. That ship was a small ship with very few people, so you wear multiple hats. And whenever I could, I would go read up on it. I would work on my resume. And I think it was about a year before I got out. I wanted to get out so bad, bro, bad, that a year before I got out, my resume was ready, and it was selling already. So I was sending resume to Houston because this is one of the things. I'm on the ship and I see oil rigs, and I was like, I wonder how much money mechanics makes on those. I was a mechanic on the boat. How much money mechanic makes on those rigs? And I would read up on Yahoo at the time. It's like roughneck, $84,000 a year. Man, that was a lot of money for me.
Yeah.
I said, man, I get out of the Navy making 84 grand. I'm set. I'm rich, because I never seen that much money in the Navy. Back then I was making, I don't know, $20K a year or so. You barely get paid to pay any bills. So by the time I got out, I had 19 job offers in Houston, Texas. That's how I ended up in Houston. I had an offer for $100 grand a year, and I had an offer for $12.46. And guess which one I picked?
I feel like it's a loaded question, but did one align better than the other one?
That's exactly the right answer. The thing is, when I started going through interviews, I not only let them interview me, but I was interviewing them.
Yeah.
And I was finding out whether I really wanted to work in that company or not. And what was I based my interview was basically, are people happy there? I would look at their body language. I look at their face. I would say hi, see how they reply back to me. The $100,000 offer was a miserable offer because most of the people in that job were miserable.
Yeah.
The $12.43, everybody was happy, and that's what I wanted. I just wanted to be happy.
Isn't that crazy?
I wanted to get out of the Navy because of the structure that I had, but I wanted to go to a place where it was actually cool, a cool environment, like welcoming, and we're learning and growing. Now, one thing that I realized on that $12.47, I think it was an hour, is that there was a lot of upside on the growth. Right, so I was coming in at the bare bottom as a trainee, working as a valve engineer, basically putting valves together. That's what I did. But I was learning how to be a subsea technician, which later on landed me multiple six figures working offshore. Not even 2 years later. I mean, 2 years later, I was making more money than I've ever seen in my life, and I was traveling the world. So, you know, that thing that I couldn't do in the Navy, which was travel the world.
Boxes checked off.
Yeah, I started getting boxes checked off. I was in the oil and gas gave me this view of like playing with expensive toys. Yeah. When I say expensive toys, if you screw up an operation in the oil and gas business, the company loses millions a day, millions. So that's a responsibility you have, right? So I did that for a few years. Now that I had a little bit of money, I had remarried again, met my wife. We lived in Houston on a beautiful home now. I was looking for something where I can make that money grow. And I was not like the rest of the guys in the oil and gas. Most of the guys in the oil and gas, they spend their money. They buy toys, the boats, the RVs, the little things that they go on the desert and, you know, like, I mean, they find ways to burn through cash.
To burn through cash.
Yeah, I wasn't that. I was like, man, now that I have a little bit of money, how can I make this work? How can I make it grow? So I started reading.
That's a big awareness, man. Usually it's people live paycheck to paycheck, and it's unintentional design. Meaning that as soon as it comes in, there's almost like a subconscious need to get rid of it.
To get rid of it.
Yeah. Financial thermostat.
So I had that. I had that for a while. Like, you know, I would buy nice clothes because I never had nice clothes, right? Other than the ones that my father used to buy for me when I worked for him. Yeah. When I was in the Navy, hey, I could only wear what I could afford, and it wasn't much.
Yeah.
So now that I'm making money, we live in a nice house, we have nice vehicles, but I find myself with so much time on my hands now that I'm venturing in other things. I started getting into network marketing. I started getting into reading about real estate. And it wasn't until I saw a TV show called Flip This House.
Yeah.
And his name is Armando Montelongo, by the way. Shout out to that guy. He's the one that got me started, man. I saw him and I said, that guy doesn't look special. He doesn't look that smart. But he's buying properties that are ugly and flipping them and making money. And he made it. The show was fun to watch, you know. And they had drama and all that.
I remember that.
So, man, I got hooked on it. And I started watching episode after episode after episode. So I went and bought his book. I read his whole book. Literally, I learned about a hard money loan, private money, and it's okay to pay high interest on these loans. And, Rafael, that's all I took for me, is to read that book, and I went and started looking for houses. And I would just put offers and offers and offers on houses. My agent was like, I was like probably pissing him off on a daily basis because I'm like, hey, Damien, put an offer on that house. But, dude, you're offering too low. And I was like, I don't care. Put it. I got to go get me a house. And finally, I bought my first property in 2008, towards late 2008. And I bought a university, dude.
Right in the middle of it.
It was right in the middle of the whole mess.
Yeah.
But to me, that wasn't like a thing, right? Like I knew we were going through it, but I wanted to learn how to flip a house so bad that I'm like, I'm gonna buy whatever and I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna go through a process. So I bought a house called what I call today a university. A university is you gotta do it all from the top all the way to the bottom. Like
that's what you mean by university.
Yeah, you're fixing the foundation, you're doing the roof, you're putting a new AC, electrical, plumbing. It was a full gut job.
Yeah.
So I literally got a PhD on that house.
Shit.
I learned how to deal with contractors at the time.
Yeah.
Because they stole all my money. Yeah. So if I do a case study on that property, it's like purchase price $13,000 because that's what I pay for it. Rehab $25,000. Money stolen $30,000. You know, so I
dump tax $45,000.
Yeah,
I paid a lot of that one.
Bro, by the way, that house almost got demoed by the city.
Really?
Yeah. So when I get there the first day, we're gonna do demo day, right? I actually rented a U-Haul. And I parked the U-Haul because I didn't know where to find a dumpster.
Yeah.
And
Like,
back
what?
then, the internet wasn't what it is today, where you put dumpster and
Like
300
yeah.
dumpster companies show up, right? I just couldn't find a dumpster company. So I went and rented a U-Haul, and we were going to gut the house, throw it on the U-Haul, and I was going to take it to the landfill and dump the trash in there. But when I get there, there's a crane getting ready to knock off the house. And I'm like, what are you guys doing here?
Your house?
Yeah.
So
and
that
I'm
point
like,
was your
we're going to
house.
knock that house. I was like, no, you're not. I just closed on this thing like 3 days ago. I want to fix it. And they're like, no, this house is deemed for demolition. So I said, can you just stop this? I need to go to the city and talk to the city. This is in the city of Pasadena in Texas. And the guy felt sorry for me, man. And he's like, you know what? I'll give you 24 hours to go figure it out. So I went there and I literally told them, hey, I just bought this house. I didn't know you guys were gonna knock it down, and otherwise I would have never bought it. And they're like, what's your plan? I mean, they had so many houses to knock down.
Yeah.
That they're like, what's your plan? I said, well, I'm gonna fix it.
Well, there was a surplus.
Yeah,
There was a surplus of properties. Yeah.
For them, it was like they were saving a little bit of money by not knocking it down.
Yeah.
Because now they can go knock another one down since I'm gonna fix this one.
Yeah.
And it literally took me about a year to fix the house because of all the learning experiences I went through it. Contractors stealing my money. I still remember the AC guy taking $2,000 from me.
It's always a trip, man, to ask somebody about their first real estate investment, right? Like, and they often go like that. Like, it's if you didn't break even, you maybe lost a little bit or you made a little bit. You never like I've never had a conversation with somebody who just knocked it out of the ballpark, right? You know,
Somebody
right
with a mentor.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Somebody cutting the learning curve. But if you go in and then just
had
by
no
yourself
mentor.
trying to figure shit out,
My mentor was that book.
Yeah.
That was it. And
I had a stigma against mentors, man. Back in the day.
Like, but
no,
they're
just
a
gonna take
scarcity.
the money. Yeah,
It's a scarcity mentality.
1,000%.
That's all it is, right? I'm not gonna pay a
1,000%.
mentor. I can figure this out on my own, right?
Yeah.
And that's the ego speaking for some of us.
What do we do now on a regular basis? We pay to be just not even mentored, but in a room with people who are crushing it.
Yeah,
like, that's it.
That's how we met.
I just want to be in a room with people who
That's
are
how
crushing
we met.
it.
We met in a mastermind.
Exactly.
That we pay the cult leader, you know,
The
a
cult
bunch of
leader,
money.
yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Matt, right?
Oh, yeah,
He's the cult leader, right? So, but yeah, like we just want to get around people. Like, okay, cost money to get there. Absolutely, here's the check.
That's
right?
important, man. Find ways of cutting the learning curve. And I'm not saying sign up for the first thing that is thrown at you. But
Yeah.
do research and whatnot. Figure out what aligns with where you want to go, but actually spend some time thinking about that kind of stuff.
So back then,
and
I
considering,
couldn't
yeah.
find mentors. That was the thing.
Yeah,
Locally, in
I had the
Houston,
same problem. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know where these guys are. So I just went and bought this university. The university actually turned out to be a great deal 4 years later because I was forced to rent it for like 3 years. And when I first bought it, I would say the ARV on the property was about $60,000. So I was in it for what the ARV was.
Yeah.
Now, in reality, at the time, if I would have done, if I would have handled the general contracting better, I would have gotten $20K on equity or something. I would have been at 70% like I thought I was going to be on. But because I had money stolen, then that kind of like threw me off. And the numbers were so little that, an extra $20K, you're out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. Any shift makes an
Dude,
impact.
back then, a full rehab on a house like that was $25,000. Full.
Yeah.
You gutted it like literally. Today
We
that's
had the
75.
same stuff. We had the same stuff going on in Phoenix. Same stuff going on in Phoenix.
So anyhow, I do that house. I rent it, and then I had a lot of pains going through it. But then I said, you know what? I'm gonna do another one.
Yeah.
Now I just got this thing past me. It's cash flowing. It's bringing $900 a month. And I started with private money, by the way. So I went to my mother-in-law. And I said, hey, can I borrow $30,000 from you? And she's like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to flip a house. And she's like, how many have you done? And I said, nothing, 0. Okay, here's the money. So she was my private money lender at the time. And I ended up paying her later on with interest and everything. But it's kind of weird. I started with private money not knowing that was called private money.
Yeah.
And finished that property, put it on the market for rental. 4 years later, I sold it for 100. I think it close to 100,000. but he brought 900 bucks a month for 4 years.
Yeah.
So
And
when
then
you run the
then
numbers,
you made equity, yeah.
when you run the numbers, that thing was a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Because my return on investment was huge.
You had the time factor in it, yeah.
Time factor.
Appreciation.
Then I went into doing more properties. Got to a point to where we accumulated a lot of houses. But I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy being a landlord. And the reason I accumulated all those properties is because I bought on somebody else's dream. It wasn't my dream. I thought, okay, if that guy is killing it, I can probably be killing it too with a bunch of rentals.
Yeah.
And in 2012, I decided...
That's important, man. It's important to be aware of that.
Yeah, I wasn't aware. I was buying someone else's vision, basically, right? And sometimes we make that mistake. It's like, oh, what he's doing, that's what I like for me, and completely wrong. So, liquidated all the houses. Had another contractor that stole a lot of money from me as well. But this is a guy that we actually did 10 projects together. And then when I picked up 3 new properties, I struck a check, never saw him again. So he built the relationship with those 10 houses. And then when we were about to start scaling, because now I'm giving him 3 projects at a time, he just disappears with the money. And then I ran into him years later somewhere else. But it's a crazy story, man. But anyhow, did a lot of houses, realized I didn't like being a landlord. And one of the reasons is because when I had to do the things landlords have to do, which is evict, things of that nature, I had a conflict. I had a conflict evicting a 70-year-old lady. I had a conflict. So, and that, unfortunately, that affects the business as a business.
Yeah, 100%.
Cash flow disappears. So I got rid of that. 2012 now, people are getting approved for loans. And this is when I start now doing flips. Now, keep in mind, I'm doing all of this part-time because I had an oil and gas business job where I was there making multiple 6 figures. And now in 2012, I was part of a corporation as a corporate manager. I was a product line manager for that business. I had a P&L of $120 million. I attribute my big thinking thanks to that job. Because on that job, I started handling large numbers, like $40 million contracts, $600 million contracts. It was all in millions and like these huge numbers that you handle in the oil and gas business. That I'm like, man, my little houses are really nothing when it comes to these numbers that we handle here, right? So
a drop in the pond.
It was a drop in the pond. So I did that until 2015. I was employed, fixing and flipping, some rentals. Then I had an entourage of people now that I was showing how to do real estate. That way they could lower their tax bracket. Because one problem I had as an employee with all of those guys is that we all make money. And they were wondering, how is it that I pay a lot less taxes than they did? And it's because I had a vehicle called real estate.
Yeah, depreciation.
Depreciation, that's correct. And then I would tell them, it's like, by the way, guys, you do 3 flips a year, that's $100,000, man. That's an extra $100,000 that you didn't have. And they're like, wow. So they got into this world of real estate. A couple of them actually got rich. They own rental properties today and all that. We're no longer together, but we came along for quite a few years together. And then in 2015, I get laid off. When I get laid off, I had 2 career paths to follow. One was real estate because I've already done over 100 properties. The other one was network marketing because I actually had built large downlines on network marketing while I had a job. So network marketing to me was like my personal development school. Because all these networkers that are building MLMs and things like that, they drink the Kool-Aid, man. They have real cults. But these cults,
yeah, I've seen it.
Like they're reading books, they're going to the events, they're raising the energy, and that's how you can duplicate that energy through your downline. That way, the production grows, right? Yeah. So I learned that doing network marketing, and I loved it. I love the energy. I love going to events. That's one of the reasons why I throw events today in our space. Yeah, it's because I like that energy around, and I had to make a decision because I knew I was a little bit more mature now. I said I was 36 or 37 years old, and I said, okay, one thing is I need to make a lot of money fast, and the reason why is because I live like somebody that made a lot of money. I had a big house.
Lifestyle,
I had the lifestyle was very, dude, I had to make 25 grand a month just to pay bills.
Yeah.
So, you know, as an employee, that's a high standard of living, right? I said, okay, network marketing can provide that, but it takes a long time to build that.
Yeah.
Real estate, all I have to do is do 10 flips a year, maybe, or 20, and I'm there. So, man, I know how to rehab already. So that to me was a no-brainer. So that's when I became a full-time fix and flipper. And I remember I went from flipping 3 houses at a time into 10. And I remember going to my partners and saying, guys, we need to do 10 now. And they're like, 10? You must be out of your mind, dude. We're struggling with 3, managing contractors. Like, yeah, guys, but you guys got a job. I don't. Now I got to make money from this thing to feed my lifestyle because I'm not going to go to foreclosure or lose my cars and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what forced me to scale my flipping business. The thing is, in between 2015 and 2017, we scaled. And when I'm telling you scaling, like we were doing 20 to 30 flips at a time. We grew because I was running from being in survival mode. Yeah. Like I got laid off, got put on survival mode right away. Because when I ran my numbers,
especially if you don't want to downgrade the lifestyle, like you gotta take action.
It's not that I didn't want to downgrade my lifestyle. It's just that I don't think I could have downgraded my lifestyle right away. It's
a motivator. One thing that I'm seeing here too is that you got exposed to a financial thermostat that was way up there.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that can sit.
And I was seeing guys locally in Houston that were making it happen.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, if that guy's
you're seeing it in the corporate world, and you come in and then see it in your industry. Like,
yes.
How can
How can I marry the two?
Yeah, you can marry the two, and how can you not be a part of that? Like it's in your world, it's in your space.
So we started fixing and flipping big time. I think I made my first $1 million when I was an employee. And I had these rentals. But I made that $1 million on equity. So it wasn't cash.
Yeah.
I was a high income earner because I was making $200 and some thousand bucks a year as an employee.
So net worth hit that $1 million mark.
But the net worth, I probably hit 2 or 3 million.
Yeah.
Actually, this is a true story. So we go to lunch with our banker. We used to do this particular local bank in Houston. And the guy takes us out to lunch. And we're talking about the future, like, hey, we're gonna get into all these projects, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and the guy says, yeah, with you guys' net worth, I see that's not a problem. I said, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean?
What do you mean net worth?
What do you mean on net worth? And the guy's like, dude, you guys are worth like $5 million each. And I said, hell no, I don't have that money in the bank. I'm thinking I need to have the money in the bank, right? He's like, no, man, all the equity that you guys have in all these properties, it puts you there. And I'm like, and I remember Jose looking at me like, what? You're telling me I'm rich? Like, literally, he found out at that lunch that we had a higher net worth. So we blew past that number. We didn't even realize it. But it was only equity that we had acquired, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, long story short, 2017, I'm not with those partners anymore because eventually our vision grew apart. Now I had Dennis as my main business partner. Now we have a general contracting company. We're running all the crews. I used to dress with a shirt like this and Bermudas every day because I'm on my car going from rehab to rehab to rehab to rehab. We had a warehouse for all the excess materials. We'll take it to the warehouse. Yeah. And sometimes we will flip a house with excess materials. So guess what? The rehab budget on that thing was zero. It was just the labor that we had to pay for, right? So now I'm hiring more people because I'm now private money is coming to me from all kinds of different ways.
Make it work.
Like private money is walking through my office, literally. I think raising my first $1 million on private money was a challenge because I had to go work it. The next 15 million, it was like, it came to me. Yeah. And it was because we were doing a good job at
track record,
flipping all these houses. And our lenders loved that we were fully integrated. Like we had a mailing company. That's how we got all of our leads. Then we have our same as cash company. That's how we did all the wholesaling. We will wholesale to us. So we created all these different transactions in all these different lanes. And in 2017, I would say July, Dennis and I we felt rich for the first time. Um, and it's because we started going to see Lambos and Ferraris. Like we were gonna buy, he was gonna buy a Lambo. I'm a Ferrari guy, so I was gonna get a Ferrari. He was gonna get a Lambo. But there was a reason behind those two vehicles. We wanted to get on both clubs in Houston, the Lambo club and the Ferrari club.
Yeah.
Why? There's private money in there.
There's a lot of money in there.
If some those guys are driving those vehicles, they have the means to drive the vehicles, right? Most of them. I would say 90% of them do.
Yeah.
There's always that 10%.
Yeah, there's a few rentals.
That rentals, right? So we were doing that, and Dennis is an engineer. He's like very methodical, in a box kind of guy. He's actually a PE, a professional engineer, so he can sign drawings and stuff. And he was always my sounding board. And I told him, hey, man, let's go get these cars. We're good. And he's like, nah, man. Nah, let's just wait. Let's wait until December. Let's go ahead and collect a little bit more money. And in December, we go buy the cars.
Figure out what the taxes are. And
he just didn't know what was in store for us, right? And we still, like, he still hadn't feel that we made it. I did. Like, I'm like, hey, man, dude, we got more money right now that we can possibly spend. And, we got all these millions of dollars lined up for projects. We just need to find more projects, more people. That was our thing. Projects, people, money. Projects, people, money. And then we'll just make it happen, right? And then that's when Hurricane Harvey hit August, the last day of August of 2017. And the first thing we did, so we were...
That's the kind of stuff you can't plan for, man.
No. It's like I wasn't expecting that. But the craziest thing is we're worried about the damages of the hurricane, right? At that point, I'm exiting my relationship with the last two guys, so I'm in the process of buying them out. But the way I bought them out was they kept all the assets. I was keeping the liabilities moving forward. And 5 of their assets flooded. So I took my rehab guys, fixed their houses, put them back on my rehabs. But by the time I'm going back to my rehabs, they all quit, all my workers. So what put a dent on my business was these guys quitting, because now I can't compete with FEMA and insurance companies and their labor. If I pay a guy $200 a day, they're paying $1,000 a day plus per diem, which in a way today, if I had to go back, I'd probably pay them the $1,000 a day because I lost much more than that. And in a matter of 6 months, man, I'm now getting worried because I got 40 plus properties that I got to finish. $250,000 in loans every month. I can see that we're draining our bank account so fast, it's unreal. And that's how we became wholesalers. Like, literally, we had to we switch over to wholesaling by necessity.
Pivot.
We had to pivot.
Yeah,
because
we had to pivot.
We didn't want to buy more properties because we had enough already. And we didn't have enough people to fix them. So how do we buy more? Even though we had money available, we're like, if we buy more, we make the problem bigger. So we just got to pivot to something else. Now that I look back, I should have bought more. Because I think if I would have bought more, I would have gotten more cash flow and I would have finished. And eventually, I would have been out of it. But what we did is we pivoted to wholesaling. But there was another thing that happened. Like, Houston became the center of the epicenter for the U.S. wholesaling-wise, because of 3,000 homes are flooded now.
Oh, yeah.
So every wholesaler in the world is coming to Houston. So that's how when I first started kind of like doing a hybrid of virtual. So I started targeting cities that look like Houston, like Tampa, Florida. And I will send mailers out there, and I will fly, and I will go lock up deals, personal, like in person to person. And then we'll go sell these contracts. And that's how we started creating our wholesaling operation. Sometime in 2018, Dennis got tired. He came to me one day and said, man, I'm tired, bro. Like, we're swimming against the current. We're losing our asses off. Now we're dealing with lenders that are foreclosing on houses. And like, we were in a bind. The worst nightmares of a real estate investor, I lived through those. And I had to deal with them. And now I'm a good persuader, so I was able to persuade many of them to work with me. I was like, hey, guys, I wasn't planning for this thing. I didn't know my people were going to quit on me. You got 2 choices. You can foreclose on the house, or you let me finish it. 98% of the guys let me finish them. The other 2%, you'll never be able to please everybody. Yeah. I learned that lesson through that time frame. now that I know what I know today, I would have done things way different. Like as soon as that hurricane hit, I would have quit paying everybody. And I say that biblically right now. Yeah, because that's what broke me, is that I continue to pay all these loans because I wanted to honor my commitments. But what I should have done was I should have renegotiated those loans back then.
Yeah.
I didn't do that because I wanted to honor the commitments that I signed for, you know. So, you know, I just couldn't please everybody. And I had some houses foreclosed on me. I had to deed some houses back to a lender. Luckily, the biggest lenders that I had at the time, they sort of were taken care of first, but it's because those properties were almost ready. It was a couple of the little ones that we had that they just had to wait forever.
Man, so you went through this whole period of turbulence, right? And I mean, it's a natural disaster, but it's really what I'm picking up is, yeah, the hurricane was one thing, but it was really the collateral damage from that.
It was the collateral damage. It was never the hurricane
that took a toll on you.
The hurricane created that collateral damage, and it was my people leaving. And then the other thing is we couldn't find contractors.
So you're I mean, you're in the middle of this whole thing. You mentioned VAs because now, for example, VAs are a big part of your entire operation, right? You have a couple of different companies that are ran by VAs.
All of them are, actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
All of them.
So when does that take place, and what does that look like now?
So I get heavy into wholesaling, right? And somewhere down that time in 18, I hired my first 2 VAs that are today my executive team members. Like they're running all these companies now. And I remember Carla used to make $50 a month, and now she's like making all kinds of money. You know, I'm not gonna say how much she makes, but she does very well. And I started building teams in-house for wholesaling. And I was good at attracting people. So I've always been good at attracting people. I did my own meetups. I had to go build cash buyers lists, things of that nature. And most of my employees came through my meetups. Like literally, I put them in the office, and then we'll execute. And we started doing 6 figures in assignments somewhere around in 18, 19. The problem was it wasn't as consistent. Number one. Number two, marketing was changing big time. So we were heavily in direct mail, and then these new things were coming out: cold calling, SMS,
voice note
RVMs.
drops.
RVMs, all that stuff, right? So we started having to pivot on the marketing side too. So that kind of like delayed the consistency a little bit. But we were making money to offload properties. Yeah. And we were also selling properties at cost. Like literally, I became a motivated seller very fast. Like the same thing that I did for wholesaling, I became on the flip side. Yeah. And I think we clear our plate into 2021, actually, is when we finally clear our plate. I still have 3 of those properties, but they're mine now. That I'm going to do something with them. But we had these in-house teams, and one thing I noticed was that revolving door. The guy come in, learn, go, come in, learn, and go, or they get fired for some reason. And I just got frustrated, man. In last year, in 2021, we had $1 million in assignments to collect, and we didn't do it. We didn't do it, and we fell short big time. Wow. And I was just disgusted by it, and I started analyzing why it happened. Like, why is it that I wasn't able to collect all this money that was on the board at some point? And this is August last year, and I went and meditated on it. I prayed on it. And I got back to the office, and I literally just fired everybody. I said, "You're all fired." And at that
point,
talk
about a wipeout, man.
At that point, I was deciding to stop the operation to rebuild. Right? There was no quitting on me, but I'm like, I gotta go do things different. Yeah. I had a new guy on my team, Caesar, who you met, and then I had another guy on my team that was kind of like second in command. So I had to give him the benefit of the doubt at the time because he was trying to do things the right way, but sometimes his communications with the team members weren't right. And I'm one of those guys that I need to make sure that can be delegated. I didn't want to be the guy working with them because otherwise I just bought myself a job. I don't have really a company. So I always took that stand of I need to be a CEO. I don't need to be the guy grinding. Although, hold on a second, let me put my boots on real quick. and I'm gonna go grind for a little bit. That way I can figure this thing out. But as soon as I can, I'm gonna delegate this again.
The importance of understanding the hustle as a tool, man, is huge, right? Hustle is a season. It's a season. It's not a business strategy. The hustle is a season part came straight from Tom Kroll. That's who I learned it from. But it's I think as entrepreneurs, we want to know enough to be dangerous in the different areas of the business. It doesn't mean that we're in it the whole time. Our highest and best use is taking a look at the overall, setup, the structure of the business, and then you're fine tuning and tweaking and pivoting like you have done so many times.
Well, so one thing is I've been running on Traction for a while.
Yeah.
Now, I think I got introduced to Traction through Sean Terry. Actually, I bought a course called the 100K Wholesaler.
Yeah.
And I literally, I was like watching an episode, implement, watching an episode, implement. And I built a Traction tool, and I loved it so much that throughout the years, I just kept on perfecting it and perfecting it and perfecting it. So last year, I was doing an event in Miami. The event was done and over with. Now it was time for me to refocus on my operation. And I looked at my VTO, my Vision Traction Organizer, and I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, because I'm thinking about quitting now. I'm throwing events. I probably can make more money on events than I can on wholesaling. I got all these other things happening. And I said, I got to sit back and reassess before I move forward. And as fast as I've moved in the past, I didn't want to move fast anymore. I said, I want to, every step that I take now, I want to make sure that the step is well, taken.
Yeah.
I'm tired of losing, is what I said. I lost millions thanks to the storm and the people leaving. And I've lost multiple team members to situations. How can I make sure I grow, but I do it to where it's measured and it's more predictable, right? So I pulled back my VTO, and I started looking for the things that were working for me, not the ones that didn't work, because it was about 90% of that wasn't working. So I'm looking at them, it's like, what is working for me? And the constant thing was Carlos and Carla, my main two guys that were overseas. And I said, how come I have not put more time into developing them? So I went to Carlos and Carla and said, hey, guys, you guys are going to get a lot more involved in my business now. By the way, you both are getting a raise right now. This is what I need you to do. So I gave them instructions. I need you to find me some VAs. We need some lead generation. We need some acquisitions. We need some dispositions. I want to build a team virtual. And they went they went into execution mode. And when we had the first VAs on the acquisition side, Shane was real good at scripts and training because he came from the car industry. So he knows how to train car sales people.
Training, yeah.
So the sales training is on his vein. I'm actually hiring him now to do some ongoing thing. But he was a CEO at the time. And what happened is I gave them all these VAs. He just didn't know how to communicate with them. He didn't think they were good enough because of the accent, all these limiting beliefs that we have.
Yeah.
And in January, I go back. I went on vacations, came back, went to Mexico for like a whole month, came back. And I said, hey, Shane, how many contracts do we have? And he's like, well, we didn't have that too many good leads. I was like, God, I need 1 or 2 contracts, man. What's going on here? And finally, I literally took the power from him, and I went directly with the VAs. And I said, okay, guys, today you are empowered to make offers, send DocuSigns. You need to lock them up. You know how to do the numbers. You know how to do all that stuff. I want you to do it. First week, I get 13 contracts. And so I had to go back to him and say, hey, bro, sorry, you got to go.
Yeah.
Because now it was an empowerment issue. It wasn't it wasn't talent or knowledge.
Yeah.
It was empowerment. And he was not empowering them because he became like a choke point in the operation.
Yeah, the bottleneck.
He's my friend and I love him. But I'm like, hey, look, man, it's costing me money right now. A lot of money that I need so this thing can continue to operate.
Keep the machine rolling.
And Rafael, when I realized how good these guys were, I said, okay, we're going to build a software. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And now, next thing I know, all these new companies are sprinkling from my team members that are overseas now. And now,
how many team members do you have right now? How big is the team?
So same as in our wholesaling operation is 26, and we're opening 10 more. all together, I think we got about 90 people throughout the multiple companies that we have now. We should be by the end of this year about 150, and I think in 2 or 3 years we should be somewhere around 500 because we want to build teams for other people. Number one, we want to do the virtual assistants like other people, use them. What we're good at is finding real good talent and paying them well. That way they can stay with us. So our longevity, even though our team is fresh, they've already come in on a year and two. Some of those guys, right? Some of the guys that started texting for us, lead generating, are running the team now.
Yeah.
They're like acquisitions managers, and we're actually prepping one up to be the COO, the director of operations.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's amazing the talent that's out there. They're hungry. They they bleed the colors. I mean, we're getting a big office where they're all going to work now.
Yeah, it's one thing that I see often happen is that like people want to hire, right? They want to hire the big roles right out of the way and right out of the gate and bring somebody from the outside in. And that, that's fine. Somebody has a track record and you're going to pay the big bucks. But a lot of times, man, you can tap on the talent that you have within your company.
Promote from within.
And promote from within.
That's my approach.
They already know how the industry works. They already know how your company works. They already know the culture of the business. If they make it to a point like that, for example, director of operations or COO, you know that there's merit behind that, right? So it's been built and there's commitment to the company.
That's the approach I take.
It's really cool when you know somebody just bleeds your company. Like that's
man, our culture is pretty strong.
Yeah.
And the talent is there. Like these guys and girls are talented.
Yeah.
Like they're hard work. Most of them are degreed. They actually went and got degrees in whether it's our architecture or business, or we have attorneys working with us right now. And we're providing a platform that they know they have growth. They don't have to stay as a lead generation person.
Yeah.
I actually tell them when I talk to, because I talk to every single one of them, I say, look, guys, you will grow with me as high as you can. I don't want you to stay in that one position only because that's what you know how to do. If there is opportunity for you to move lateral or move around, we're opening all these different new lanes that you guys have an opportunity for growth. And it's working for them. I'm amazed on how our team has grown now, how productive they are, how much they love what they do, and the ones that don't, they're simply not with us anymore.
Yeah,
right?
There's attrition. I mean, people fall off, real quick. You'll figure out whether or not you belong within 3 months.
Yeah, we had one that was real good. It's a female. It's a lady, and I saw her potential. Like I was like, man, this girl can go to places. And I think I made a mistake because I started putting too much on her and giving her more responsibility. She was making more money and everything. But I think at some point that affected her relationship in her own house. So I don't know if her husband or her parents or who knows who.
Yeah, dynamics.
And they pulled her away literally and she ended up quitting. But I was like, you're doing what? I can't believe we just had a conversation about how big we were going to grow that company that you're running because she was running it.
Yeah, I've had that happen before. Next thing you know, priorities change, and again, like having the ability to pivot from one thing to the next, or one challenge to the solution is really key, man. When it comes down to
But the good thing is, I was already looking at the bottom. That's one thing I'm good at is identifying key leaders who's got leadership skills, who wants more, who's putting in the work to get more. And you see that, it's not that hard.
1,000%.
When somebody sends you a message at 9 p.m. and says, hey, I just got a lead here. Can you help me out with the ARV real quick?
Yeah.
You're working right now? Yeah. Because I don't even expect them to do that. You follow me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can show you. Let's get on a Zoom call. Or I think this is the ARV or whatever.
Yeah.
So you start taking notice of those things.
You go back and empower that person to do better, to do bigger. I'm a big believer in merit.
Yeah.
And merit. I mean, merit pay, merit, training, everything in a business, I think, or in any company, for that matter, should be, in my opinion, should be based on merit, right? You can't treat the person who's half-assing it the same as a person who's crushing and being committed. That's inequality.
You'll kill the culture.
That's exactly what happened to you in the military. Your merit was there, but they killed your career, which would have been a 20-year career in there.
Look, check it out. Just by going back to the military, when I'm about to get out, now they're coming to me with all these things.
Oh yeah, because they want to put a Band-Aid on it. It's not a matter of Band-Aid. It's a matter of recognition. And
we're gonna give you the next rank. Yeah. We're gonna give you money, a sign-on bonus. I was completely mentally gone.
Oh yeah,
I looked down and said, guys, I checked out a long time ago. I don't care what you guys do.
Yeah,
I'm out. And they looked at me like they could not believe I was walking away from all those things.
Yeah,
but it's because I've already knew that in my future, the other things that were outside were much better than the ones that they were offering me. So.
Right. Yeah, no, it's there's so much to it, right? And we can break it down in 5-hour sessions and whatnot, but it's when it comes to entrepreneurship, and taking that bet on yourself, and I love the way that your story has unraveled, right? From 8 years old, you've had that eagerness to just find out more and grow and become better. And then you've been able to pivot as you get challenges, which is one of the things that knocks people on their ass, right? The inability to pivot or adapt to new circumstances. You adapted to a different country, then you adapted to a different industry, and then you adapted to actually gain resiliency through some of the hardest times that we've seen in the market, getting hit by natural disasters. It's I mean, in my opinion, it's fucking insane, right?
It is crazy.
It goes to show that if you stick with it, and then you have the tenacity and the resolve that you've been, putting into everything that you've done over the last, few decades, you can have results like that. You can create a life by design.
I tell people I'm a 14-year overnight success today, right? So, and I had to roll with the punches many times. Many times I'm just getting hit on, and dude, I got into, like, when I was going through all that cycle after Harvey and all that, I mean, we were making a lot of money before then, and I found myself with no money at all and falling behind on my own mortgage, right? Like, that's crazy. Like, me fall behind on my mortgage? No way.
Yeah. How do you get there? Yeah.
How do you go from here to down below like that so fast, right? And, I just figured that God and the universe had a plan for me, and it wasn't to I had to have that story. I don't think I would be helping more people today if I didn't have that journey. So I embraced my journey. I love my journey. I am Robert Allen is my mentor, and he laughs at me because he's like, Ricardo, you're the only guy that laughs at the journey, and you say you love your journey. And I said, yes, I do, because that's something I had to go through and endure,
right?
So I can help other people out today now that are possibly facing the same thing, the same challenges. Maybe a business that's blown up, or a hurricane that comes in, or an avalanche, or who knows what, man. COVID, whatever. So I tell people, it's like, look, man, you're gonna have in life, you're either coming from a setback, dealing with a setback, or headed to a setback. So it all depends on where you are in life, right? And I've been through all three of those cycles already. And I know there will be more setbacks in the future. I just don't know what they look like, how they're coming from, in which shape or form. As I was never expecting a hurricane that was going to destroy my general contracting business, right?
You're going to keep doing what you're doing. Roll with the punches, right?
Roll with punches, pivot, move on to the next thing.
Man, I love it, man. It's an incredible story. Before we start signing off, I like to ask. This is perhaps my favorite question, and I'm particularly curious just because of everything that you've been through. But this is my favorite question to ask. If you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old self, what would you tell that young Ricardo?
Yeah, personal development. That I didn't do that back then, right? I was exposed to it by. Because that
was a very quick answer, by the way. Look right there.
Because I had it clear, right? So, I remember when my dad used to take me to school, he will pop in a Tony Robbins tape or a Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
All these guys that were big into personal development when he was coming up. And I'll be like, Dad, that's boring as hell. Put a Guns N' Roses CD or something like that on it, right? And he's like, no, son, this is how I get my mind right in the morning. So by being around him, I started getting that stuff on my subconscious mind, right? but I wasn't aware of it, and I wasn't applying any of that because I thought it was garbage. Yeah. Literally, I thought it was garbage. And if I had to tell my 17-year-old again, because my 17-year-old, that guy was an alcoholic. I was partying every weekend. I was acting like a complete idiot, you know. I probably was one, you know. So I would just say, hey, just be aware. If I could literally travel in time, the guy you're looking at today, I will go up in front of that 17-year-old kid and say, look, you freaking bastard. You better work on yourself right now, because I want to be much further ahead than where I am right now, where I'm 44. But because you started too late, I'm not. And have that 17-year-old look at me and say, wow, I will work on that right now. Because it will probably change. If I can tell my 17-year-old my story, I'm pretty sure 17-year-old is going to act quicker. Right.
Incredible, man. Yeah, it's. I think it's a base for all things that are great. Just having that awareness of who you are, personal development, having the awareness of your emotional intelligence and a grip on that, it's huge. Ricardo, thank you so much, man. It's been a blast having you on. If somebody wants to reach out, get a hold of you, maybe just connect with you.
Man, just look me up on Facebook. YouTube is my #1 way of communicating. Just put my name on it, Ricardo Rosales. We have our channel. It's growing rapidly now. We have a lot of podcasting there.
Cool. Well, I'll be sure to drop the link in the show notes for that.
Instagram, so. Ricardo M. Rosales.
Yeah.
If you send me a message, it's probably one of my VAs responding to you. But please still send the message. I read them all. And man, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I love the studio. I love the setup, and I'm looking forward to do more with you.
Brother, it's been an honor. My pleasure.
Me too. Thank you.
Family, there you guys have it. Ricardo Rosales out for you. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. And I'll catch you on the next one. Stay focused. You got this.